3 spine-chilling true accounts of sinister hauntings. Discover the unexplainable terrors exposed. Lisa never thought it would come to this. Fresh off a brutal divorce and trying to scrape together a new life, she had found a cozy little house in the idyllic suburb of Maplewood. The neighborhood looked like a scene from a postcard, with white picket fences, perfectly manicured lawns, and families frolicking in the sun. She thought this was the perfect safe haven for her and her inquisitive 5-year-old son, Max. But as she stepped inside the house, the air felt heavy, like a weight pressing down on her chest. It was just the stress, or so she thought. The first night was unnerving. Barely settled, Lisa lay in bed as shadows stretched along the walls, twisting into grotesque forms that seemed to dance under the dim light of the moon. Her heart raced, pounding like thunder in her ears, and she peered through the darkness. Was that a whisper? It seemed to curl around her, curling like smoke and sending chills down her spine. Just then, Max giggled in his room across the hall, his bright laughter echoing eerily in the stillness. "Mommy, my friend says we're going to have fun," he chirped, his little voice innocent yet unsettling. Lisa shook her head, brushing off the panic pooling in her stomach. Kids made up stories. It was perfectly normal. Yet, the unease clung to her. In the days that followed, whispered secrets swirled around her like the rustle of leaves, barely audible but unsettling all the same. Then, there was Gerald, the neighbor. He was always friendly, offering a warm smile and help with anything they needed. He could be so kind until Lisa caught him watching Max with a gaze that felt too intense, too interested. Might the warmth conceal something darker? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jolted from her thoughts, terror crashed back in. One sleepless night, a shuddering whisper beckoned her from beneath the creaky floorboards, filling the house with a sense of foreboding. Following the sound, Lisa stumbled upon a hidden basement. The darkness swallowed her whole as she stepped inside, and her breath hitched. Tattered photos, rusty toys, and aged newspaper clippings detailing tales of missing children littered the floor, the truth dawning like a slow-moving storm. The familiar laughter of her son drifted down the stairs, but it was different this time. Max, standing by the basement door, gazed back at her with wide eyes, a smile that felt stitched on his face. "Mommy, he says I can stay forever." A chill clawed up her spine, and as the shadows began to close in, the whispers transformed into cruel laughter, echoing around her like sinister promises. Something was wrong, so wrong. Lisa's heart thudded in her chest as the realization hit her. The safety she thought she'd found was a trap, and it was too late to survive this suburban nightmare. The shadows thickened, swirling in the basement as if they were alive, eager to ensnare her. Lisa's mind raced. What could she do? She had to protect Max, but her instincts screamed for her to run. "No!" she shouted, her voice slicing through the ominous laughter echoing in the damp air. "You're not going to take him." With trembling hands, she reached out for Max, who remained still, locked in a trance, eyes fixed on something unseen. The basement felt colder, the air now igniting panic in her heart. She took a step forward, but her foot caught on a tangle of wires concealed beneath the debris. Tension crept into her muscles as she stumbled, barely catching herself on the edge of a workbench. Max's grin widened, a stretch of too many teeth. "Mommy, why don't you want to play?" "Max, come here," she commanded, trying to summon authority through her fear. He tilted his head, his expression ever so slightly distorted, a flicker of something alien beneath the surface, and Lisa felt bile rise in her throat. What did he say to you?" she stammered. Max's laughter rang painfully in her ears. "He said I don't need you anymore," he murmured, the sweetness gone, replaced by something darker. For a brief, desperate moment, the basement's oppressive atmosphere lightened, and a peculiar warmth enveloped Lisa. She saw a door at the far end slightly ajar. It felt like hope, but equally like a siren's call, luring her closer to whatever lurked in the shadows. "No," she breathed, shaking her head as she snapped back. "We're leaving, right now." But when she tried to grab his arm, he recoiled, the usual softness replaced by a strength she knew wasn't possible for a boy his size. Max took a step back into the dark recesses of the basement, and for a split second, Lisa caught a glimpse of something, an entity standing behind him, a fleeting silhouette with hollow eyes watching her. Panic surged. "Max! I'm your mom. You need to come to me." But he didn't move. Instead, he turned back to the darkness, whispering something she couldn't hear, drawing him deeper into a realm she couldn't reach. "Let him go." The command ripped itself free from her lips, fierce and broken. But the entity's laughter rang, muffled as it mingled with the sound of Lisa's own heartbeat, quickening faster than she thought possible. Time stretched, each second dripping by as if taunting her. She was rooted, trapped in a nightmare that refused to let her wake up. In that haunting moment, Lisa made a choice. As Max's form blurred into shadow, clutching the hand of the unseen creature, she lunged forward. She wouldn't leave him behind, no matter the cost. She grabbed his arm firmly, feeling the pulse beneath his skin, hot and frantic. Suddenly the air thickened, vibrating with a grotesque energy, and the shadows began to twist and writhe as if aware of her defiance. "Mommy, don't!" he cried, sounding far too far away. The basement shook violently, forcing Lisa to her knees as the walls throbbed with the whispers that morphed into a cacophony of terror. She was losing him, slipping into an abyss she could not imagine. As the darkness threatened to swallow her whole, she screamed, "I choose you, Max. Always." The shadows recoiled, and for a flicker of a moment, Max's eyes sparkled with recognition, a fleeting echo of love that began to pierce through the dark. Then, silence fell, a thick, oppressive silence that held its breath, waiting. What would happen next? The basement pulsated with breathless anticipation, a pulse of malevolent energy growing stronger, ready to resume its dark machinations. Lisa's heart hammered in her chest. She had reached for Max. But had she truly saved him or awakened something far worse? As the silence thickened, she felt a new presence emerging, one hovering just beyond her line of sight. An unbearable dread swirled in her stomach, bringing with it a question that echoed in the shadow-laden air: how much was she willing to sacrifice for her son? And would that sacrifice be enough to grant her the chance to escape? The silence shattered like glass. A shiver tore through Lisa, spine tingling as if ice water had been poured down her back. The presence behind her grew heavier, thicker, a suffocating force that pressed against her chest. The shadows skittered across the ground, 1,000 hands trying to pull her into the darkness. "Max!" she called again, determination slicing through her fear. "Stay with me. I'm right here." But the boy she knew was slipping away. As she stood, trembling, she felt the boundaries of her world shrinking. The shadows grew bolder, creeping toward her with malicious glee. They whispered her name, tauntingly echoing in her mind, "Lisa, come play with us." In a split second, the basement flickered into chaotic motion. Max was no longer just a distant silhouette, he was caught in a web of dark enchantment, twisting and writhing under the entity's influence. Lisa could barely recognize her son's form, the boy she loved morphing into something dreadful and grotesque. "Stop it!" she screamed, stepping forward even as the entity coiled tighter around Max, tightening its grip under the veil of darkness. "He's just a child." Max's eyes glazed momentarily, a sheen of panic breaking through. "Mommy, help me," he whimpered. The voice was small, childlike, but the shadows seemed to smirk, their sinister aura pulsating with amusement. "No." At that moment, she was nothing but a mother instinct overriding every other thought. She lunged forward again, desperate fingers stretching out toward her son. The basement roared to life. The walls trembled like a drumbeat, and the shadows erupted around her, clawing at her sanity, their laughter a cacophony of mockery. Each step forward felt like stepping into quicksand, the ground sloping beneath her, pulling her back with each ounce of force she exerted. "Let him go!" she cried, her voice ringing louder than the chorus of shadows. The entity loomed closer, the shape of it more defined now, a grotesque amalgamation of shadows and despair. It bore eyes like puddles of darkness, and in that moment, she realized, it was feeding off their fear. Anger surged through her, she would not let it win. "Max! Listen to my voice!" she shouted, her heart pounding, each beat a reminder that she still had hope. "You're stronger than this. Fight it." For a moment, she saw a flicker of recognition in his eyes again. The shadows hesitated as if unable to reconcile the love that still flickered within their web of darkness. "Mommy," he whispered, more of a plea than a command, as if the shadows perplexed him, stifling his true self. "Just reach for me. I know you're in there." But at that moment, the shadows wrenched Max away, dragging him further into their depths. His frightened gaze was all she had to hold on to. The basement echoed with anguished cries, sounds of Lisa's heart breaking, then, violent wallpaper began to peel, the air thickening with every pulse of darkness. Fractured whispers breached her thoughts, fear, desperation, and the painful truth of her sacrifice echoed menacingly. What would she give for her son? The door at the far end engulfed her sight, the last bit of light fading. The shadows seemed to suck the illumination from the ground itself. She was running out of time. In a final act of defiance, she whispered a promise laced with determination. "I will find you, Max. No matter what it takes." And then there was a glimmer, a pinprick of light breaking through the thick shroud of darkness. Lisa lunged toward it, but just as she did, the basement erupted, an explosion of shadows swirling around her like a cyclone, ready to consume her. Her last thought echoed in the chaos: had she chosen to save him, or was this just the beginning of an unspeakable nightmare? Before she could reach Max, the light flickered and vanished. Darkness swallowed everything, and with it, her final chance at escape. What now awaited Lisa in the pitch of nothingness? Would she discover the truth about the shadows, or had they too become a ghostly echo within her heart? The darkness enveloped Lisa like a suffocating blanket, cold and heavy. She strained her eyes, searching for even the slightest sign of light, but there was nothing. Just a void that seemed infinite, an absence that swallowed her whole. Her heart raced, a frantic drummer in her chest. Panic clawed at her throat as shadows danced in the corners of her mind, dark figures taunting her with silent laughter. "Max," she whispered, hoping her voice alone could somehow pierce through the suffocating air and reach him, but there was no answer. Only silence, a silence that felt thick, oppressive, and laced with dread. She felt abandoned, trapped in this endless void of night. Instinct urged her to run, to escape this hellish space, but where to? Where was out? In a universe of shadow, she took a trembling breath, gathering courage. "I will find you," her voice broke, but she pressed on, fueled by the love for her son. "You haven't disappeared. I can feel you." Sudden coldness prickled her skin. An icy breath danced across her neck, sending shivers cascading down her spine. The shadows pulsed around her, throbbing like a heartbeat, a dark awareness inching closer. The very air vibrated with malevolent energy, as if it were alive and conspired against her. She turned, feeling the weight of invisible eyes upon her. "Show yourself," she shouted, her voice louder than her pounding heart. "I am not afraid." Laughter erupted from the shadows, cruel and mocking, echoing through the void. It mocked her bravery, twisted her defiance into folly. She took unsteady steps forward, every inch felt like pushing through thick sludge. Breathe in, breathe out. Fear and determination tangled in her heart like a violent storm. "Max!" she cried out once more, each sound ricocheting off unseen walls, reverberating in the vast emptiness. "I'm coming for you." And then, as if in response, a flicker sparked in the darkness. Somewhere, a faint light glimmered, a distant star at the end of an endless tunnel. Hope ignited within her, urging her to move toward it. But as she ran, the shadows recoiled, twisting and swirling violently, threatening to swallow her. Each step felt like wading through treacle, dragging her down, away from the light. No! I want to stop. She fought back, lungs burning, legs trembling. Lisa reached for the light, the illuminating pinprick growing brighter with every desperate, labored step. It made promises of comfort and safety, but as she got closer, she felt the shadows grip her ankles, pulling her back into their dark embrace that it seemed to pulse with a rhythm of their own like a heartbeat. The shadows whispered secrets, their hissing voices winding around her thoughts. He's gone lost to us. Terror tightened its grip. Shut up! She shrieked, anger fueling her resolve. You want to take him. He's mine. With one final surge, she lunged toward the light. Just then, she felt a surge of energy, her own fear transformed into fierce defiance, propelling her forward as though she was breaking through the surface of water. And then, she was through. For a moment, she found herself standing in a small, flickering room. The sharp smell of mildew bit at her nose, and weak, stuttering light bulbs illuminated the once familiar basement. But it wasn't the same. It was twisted and wrong, the air thick with despair. Shadows clung to every corner like a tick waiting for its prey. Max! She shouted, her voice echoing against the peeling paint. Suddenly, a sound of soft crying wafted through the room, a sound all too familiar. Mommy, help me! Her heart seized. I'm coming. Yet as she began to move again, the shadows surged forward, more aggressive now, tongues of darkness reaching out to snare her. The room seemed to ripple, warping around her as despair wrapped tightly around her throat. The walls seemed to whisper her name once more, their voices mingling with the cries, creating haunting symphonies of longing and terror. Max! Lisa's scream reverberated, as she stumbled, fighting against the darkness with every ounce of strength she had left. In the shadows he's waiting. The words chilled her. What depths would she have to traverse to save him? Was she prepared to face the true nature of this haunting? As the shadows closed in around her, Lisa realized this wasn't just a fight for her son. This was a battle for her very soul. A challenge against an unfathomable darkness that wished to claim them both. As she stood defiant against the encroaching black, the flickering lights above her began to fade, and the room twisted once again. Where would they lead next? The ceiling warped and stretched, the room became a grotesque funhouse, and Lisa stumbled, grasping for stability. The shadows lurked like hungry wolves, their dark forms pulsing with undisguised malice. Heart pounding, she felt the icy grip of fear inching up her spine. Dread was becoming her constant companion. Max! The name surged through her throat, raw and desperate, a lifeline tossed into the storm. Panic clawed at her, amplifying the cries slicing through the oppressive weight of the basement. Her feet instinctively led her toward the source. Each step was a battle. The floor, slick with a foul film, threatened to pull her down. Shadows slithered around her legs, snarling whispers weaving around her sanity. He's ours, they taunted, he's never coming back. No. Lisa screamed, words exploding from her like gunfire. I want to let you take him. With a surge of adrenaline, she broke into a sprint. The cries grew louder, echoing off the warped walls, blending into a horrid symphony that wrapped around her mind. She saw a doorway at the far end, a frame struggling against the dark. It flickered with a faint glow. Max! The sound felt foreign in this accursed space, yet it was the beacon she needed. The flickering light became her focus, pulling her forward with a desperate magic. Suddenly, icy hands shot out from the walls, snatching and clawing at her skin. She gasped, the touch like shards of glass raking down her arms. Fear surged through her as she felt herself being tugged back, the shadows hungry, wanting her to succumb. No! You want to win. Desperation fueled her strength. Lisa twisted and fought, yanking free from their grip, her nails digging into the wood, splinters biting into her palms. She pushed through the pain, each frantic heartbeat another reminder of her purpose. As she neared the light, it shimmered and expanded, a promise of salvation. But just as she reached for it, the ground beneath her buckled, collapsing like an ancient bridge worn thin. Lisa fell, tumbling into an abyss, screaming, the world spinning around her in a kaleidoscope of screams and shadows, then a sudden, jarring stop. She lay flat on her back, breathless, the air heavy and stale. When she blinked, she found herself in an even darker chamber. The walls felt damp, the smell of decay thickening in her nostrils. The cries were gone, but their haunting echo remained a memory woven into her being. "Max?" she rasped, her voice barely a whisper. No response. Just the solitude of despair pressing upon her. From the corner of her vision, a flicker. Was it movement? It darted past, too quick to make out. She strained to see, the darkness wrapping around her like a shroud, suffocating. There was something lurking there, just out of her reach. "Please." She could barely speak above a hiss. "Show yourself." A chilling laugh erupted from the shadows, a taunting cackle that sent icy spikes through her back. "Have you come to join him?" The voice resonated like a bell tolling in a desolate cemetery. "You will soon find you're not alone." Lisa's heart raced, the reality crashing over her like a wave. She wasn't in this alone, but what else remained hidden in the dark? What awaited her in the depths of this tormenting malevolence? As shadows thickened, swirling ominously, she felt the room pulsate, like it had a heartbeat of its own. Then, she noticed something in the corner, something shifting. Her instincts screamed that whatever was emerging was far worse than the shadows or the laughter. And that shattering laugh echoed once again, "He's waiting for you just like all of us." The sound warped and faded, leaving her in a dim silence thick with malice. As the shadows coalesced around her, tightening their grip, Lisa realized her fight for Max was far from over. What horrors would she have to face now, and would she find her son before it was too late? The air grew heavier, suffocating, wrapping around Lisa like barbed wire. Her pulse thudded in her ears, wild and frantic. "Max!" she shouted again, her voice echoing in the blackened void, desperate, pleading. There was something in that darkness, something watching. A shiver raced down her spine, and she felt the prickling sensation of unseen eyes boring into her. The shadows danced, shifting, twisting into forms she could almost recognize. A voice, barely a murmur, fluttered in the dark. "Come play with us." It was soft, sweet, laced with a hunger that made bile rise in her throat. Lisa's instinct screamed for her to run, but where? The walls pressed in, each inch a reminder of her entrapment. Fighting off the fear, she scanned the chamber. The shadows seemed to ebb and flow like a tide, revealing grotesque shapes, faces twisted in eternal agony, mouths stretched wide in silent screams. Lisa's heart sank. They were lost souls, trapped in this limbo, and they craved her company. A wave of horror washed over her. "Max?" Her voice cracked, the doubt creeping in. Was he here with her, trapped among the damned? The silence that followed felt like a verdict, hopeless and suffocating. No. She couldn't give in to despair. With her breath hitching, she forced herself to move. The ground felt pulpy, sucking at her shoes. She shuffled forward, eyes darting for any sign of her son. "Max! Please, answer me." As she pressed deeper, nothing could prepare her for the sight that met her. In the flickering, morbid light, she saw a figure huddled in the corner. It was small, shivering, familiar. Hope surged in her chest, uncoiling like a snake, but as she drew closer, her heart dropped. The figure morphed, shifting into shadowy tendrils, the illusion dissolving like mist. "No!" A cacophony erupted from the walls, the twisted faces leering, jeering. "He's not here, sweet girl. You'll never find him." Lisa screamed, a raw sound escaping her that vibrated through the air, a battle cry driven by desperation. I won't leave without him. Suddenly, a harsh pain shot through her leg, like being bitten. She looked down and saw shadowy tendrils snaking around her ankle, pulling her down. Panic surged. Let go of me. She kicked, thrashing, feeling the dim pull at her consciousness. As she fell, something flashed in her mind, a memory of Max's laughter, sparkling sunlight through trees. Could she cling to that? The shadows tightened, whispering dark promises. Join us, end your suffering. The walls pulsed again, thrumming with energy, and Lisa felt warmth wash over her, the spark of defiance igniting deep within. No! She spat, jerking her leg free. With a visceral scream, she lunged towards an archway visible now, a shard of light blazing in the suffocating darkness. She flung herself forward as a force surged in her back, tugging her back towards the abyss. The chamber groaned, vibrating with fury, shadows swirled like a cyclone. Lisa landed hard, sprawling onto cold stone. Barely catching her breath, she glanced back. The shadows writhed, their laughter an unbearable cacophony. In that moment, the deep echoes shifted, morphing into a spine-chilling harmony, a mournful song of lost souls. Max? She whispered, the tremor in her voice reflecting the fear gripping her chest, but from the shadows, something emerged darker than the void itself, morphing, transforming. A figure shaped into a boy-like form, a twisted caricature of innocence. Mommy? It rasped, the voice slicing through her heart. Lisa's blood ran cold. She felt the air shift, pressing against her like a tidal wave. The laugh returned, menacing, wrapping around her. Is that really him? Every instinct told her to run, yet every fiber of her being screamed to believe. The realization crushed her. If she couldn't trust that voice, could she trust anything in this place? The boy stepped closer, shadows swirling away. For an instant, she saw him. Her heart raced, tears stinging her eyes. But was it him? Was he really there? Before she could bring her hand forth to touch him, everything changed once more, plunging her back into the depths of darkness. The entities shifted around her, pulling her down, whispering promises of despair. Let go, join us. What was real? What remained buried in the darkness? Would she have the strength to confront the truth waiting for her soul in those suffocating shadows? A heavy silence engulfed Lisa, one that stung her ears and filled her with dread. The boy-like figure lingered just beyond the reach of the flickering light, its features too distorted to fully comprehend. Her heart raced, pounding against her rib cage as she fought to understand the apparition before her. Max? She dared to breathe. Hope and fear mingled within her, twisting like the shadows around them. The false light dimmed, widening the abyss around her. Mommy, the voice wavered, dripping with an unsettling resonance that echoed through the chamber. Max! She screamed, panic pouring out like water from a shattered dam. I'm coming to get you. Without thinking, Lisa bolted toward the figure, drawn by the shred of familiarity. She could see its eyes now, those dark, reflective orbs that stared back with an intensity that sliced through her soul. It wasn't just a child, it was something old and wrong, something that spoke in her son's voice but bore its own sinister desires. The walls began to tremble as she lunged closer. Shadows writhed and swarmed like insects, clawing at her skin with icy fingers. Get away from him! She screamed, but the laughter, oh God, the laughter rose once again. It echoed, intertwining with her own cries, enveloping her in a cacophony of despair. Mommy, please! It beckoned her, reaching out with an ink-black hand, elongating unnaturally, beckoning her toward the void. Shadows lashed out, grasping at her fingers, pulling her toward that dreaded embrace. Join us, why fight it? The words echoed within her, stirring a deep-rooted fear. Tears streamed down her cheeks, fueled by confusion and grief. She shook her head violently, a taut string holding her together. No! You're not Max! The dark laughter crescendoed, filling the chamber, vibrating through her veins. In its wake, a guttural growl filled the air, a sound so alien that it sent chills racing down her spine, crystallizing her blood in her veins. "You're so close, Lisa, join us," the entity hissed. "You know you want to. Get away from him." She shouted again, every ounce of her being pooled into that single, fiery declaration. Suddenly, the boy's form flickered as if caught in the wind. For a split second, she could see him, Max, with the bright eyes and wild grin, a child in his innocent, unfiltered glory. It felt real. Lisa lunged, reaching out to grasp him, but instead, her hands found a wall of shadow, a wall that swallowed her scream. "Mommy!" It was a plea and a taunt intertwined. But, as she clutched the darkness, visions exploded around her, a hellscape filled with forms writhing in anguish, mouths agape in silent screams. Her heart was a drum, pounding louder than the chaos. Then, a painful sting lanced through her left arm. She looked down to see tendrils coiling around her, pulling her, gradually eroding her resolve with icy certainty. "Let go," they whispered, a bomb sliding over her mind, lulling her toward surrender. "No." She gritted her teeth, willing fortitude into her muscles, and broke free of their grasp, shoving past the manifest shadows, blinding rays of resolve illuminating her spirit, but the darkness spun faster, a vortex of despair that twisted beyond sight. Lisa spun, clutching her head as panic gripped her tighter. Everything felt unreal. "Max!" She called again, desperation turning her voice into a raw rasp. "Where are you?" Yet the shadows only pressed closer, mocking her resolve with their relentless chorus. "You'll never escape, Lisa. Stay with us, stay forever." The piercing light narrowed again as another figure emerged, sinister and serpentine, entwining around the boyish form. Lisa's breath caught in her throat. A soft, cruel chuckle fluttered through the air like an abyssal breeze, freezing her in place. "Mommy, let us play," the raspy voice echoed, distorted by a malevolence she could not comprehend. Was it Max still hiding beneath this empty shell of darkness? Or had she lost him forever? As the darkness reached for her once more, echoing the siren call of despair and hopelessness, she was pulled deeper into their world. Would she find her son, or was this all just a way to further ensnare her? As shadows gripped her tighter, one thought blared in her mind: could she decipher the truth from the terror as it threatened to consume everything? In that final moment, beneath the oppressive weight of darkness, the whispering thrall deepened. "Join us and never be alone again." Lisa's world slipped away, leaving only silence before the screams began anew. The silence fractured, shards of panic scattered in all directions. Lisa felt herself being torn apart, a taut string unwinding slowly. The shadows coiled tighter, their whispers morphing into anguished wails, pulling at the very fabric of her being. She felt the terror seep in, a thick, dark syrup enveloping her limbs, slowing her, binding her to the ground. "Max!" The cry emerged, born of desperation, but it slipped like sand through her fingers. She could see nothing but shifting shadows, their forms hungry, waiting for her surrender. They pulsed with a life of their own, a grotesque dance that mocked her anguish. "I want to let you take him." But the words felt feeble, trembling in the face of the chaos. Lisa felt the darkness stir, almost like it had a pulse. Each throb resonated with the memories of laughter, of bedtime stories, of shaky rides on the school bus. Was that the sound of her son beneath all this horror? "Mommy, come play," the twisted voice echoed, each syllable slicing through her resolve. The figure before her began to change, morphing into numerous shapes, unnatural, elongating forms that wavered in the darkness. Lisa's heart beat erratically, the fear now a tangible weight pressing cold against her. With sheer will, she squared her shoulders and pushed back against the encroaching shadows. She needed to grip onto something real, anything that reminded her of Max. The laughter twisted again, wrapping around her mind, boiling her memories into unsettling distortions. They laughed like children, yet it struck as discordant, jarring against the backdrop of her love. The cavern trembled as she stumbled forward, drawn inexplicably toward the glowing void at its center. Perhaps, just perhaps, Max was waiting beyond the shadows. She could save him. She could still escape this nightmare that taunted her. "Stay with us," Lisa the shadows whispered, swaying like a hypnotic dance, threading through her thoughts. "Embrace the darkness. You don't need to fight." Fighting was all she had. With a clenching heart, she pressed deeper, the air thickening around her as she surged toward the glow. The laughter crescendoed in her ears, a deluge of sounds that burrowed into her mind, feeding on her fear. "Let me go!" she shouted defiantly, the words slashing through the dark. Yet the shadows only cocooned her tighter, their touch icy and invasive, scratching against her skin. Suddenly, the figure of her son re-emerged, the real Max, eyes bright, innocence radiating like sunlight through the fog. "Mommy!" he cried, and every muscle in her body surged towards him, aching with longing. But just as she reached out, the laughter morphed again, blending reality and nightmare. "Can't you see, Lisa? He is with us now." A sickening pit opened in her stomach, spiraling her into fear more paralyzing than anything before. Was this truly her son, or just another trick of the dark? The shadows pulsed, and the ground beneath her trembled once more. "Mommy, don't fear them," the voice layered with twisted affection now felt like a taunt. "I don't want to be alone anymore." Lisa's mind reeled, reality spiraling. She couldn't lose him a second time. Fighting back tears, she screamed, "Max!" But the dark figures danced closer, their eyes glimmering with malicious anticipation. Lisa had a choice: to believe in the truth of love or to dive into the endless deceit of the shadows. As a wave of darkness surged forward, threatening to engulf her, she grasped for hope, for reality. A lone thought floated in her mind: what if the only way out was through? A titanic roar erupted from the shadows. The entire chamber shook as bolts of light surged through the darkness, illuminating the space in fleeting glimpses of horror. With each pulse of light, a visage of terror pierced her heart. She hesitated, taken aback. The faces of those lost in this curse rose before her. Who were they? Friends? Strangers? Existence became a blur as she faced the horrific possibility of permanent entrapment. Then, the shadows tightened around her enough to whisper, "You'll never know peace again," and that was when she heard it. A soft, painful sob woven through the gloom, a sound that sliced through her. Mommy, was it Max? No, was it really him this time? Again she pushed forward, fighting against the cold embrace of the shadows, desperately trying to grasp the faint flicker of light and her son. "Max! I'm coming. Hold on." But her certainty wavered as the shadows began to pull back, revealing a shimmering path, leaving her breathless yet uneasy. With every step, the ground trembled beneath her, as if the abyss yawned wider. What if there was more waiting for her beyond? Would she find Max or something worse? Each choice now extended like a razor-thin edge before her. Was the truth actually a lie? And as she edged closer into the unexpected light, the laughter grew distant and the shadows tightened their grip, whispering secrets that pulsed with dread. Lisa grasped her heart, unsure of what would come next. Would the truth lead her to salvation or deeper into despair? She had to know. The shadows were alive behind her, their whispers fading like a bad dream, but she had to push on into the unknown. What awaited her in the depths of the light? Every instinct screamed for her to turn back, yet she stepped forward, knowing one thing: hell was rising. And she had to face it. Could she emerge whole from the arms of that darkness once and for all? As Lisa stepped into the shimmering path, the light wrapped around her like a cloak, yet the shadows still yawned hungrily behind her. Every pulse of illumination cast elongated silhouettes, figures twisted and distorted by her imagination, shapes that reached for her, clawing into her reality. What if they were not just remnants of her fears but echoes of the people she'd lost, trapped in a torment of their own? "Mommy!" The cry rang out, clearer now, threading through the air like a lifeline. Lisa's heart soared. She sprinted towards the sound, her legs pumping with a renewed fervor. The path sparkled beneath her feet, each step igniting a flicker of hope, but the shadows loomed ever closer, their whispers spiraling into a dissonant chorus. "You will regret this choice," they hissed, voices dripping with malice as they unfurled their dark tendrils, weaving through the air like smoke, but Lisa pressed on, her resolve solidifying. "I won't lose him again." The words ignited a flicker of defiance within her, a small flame against the gathering storm of despair. "Mommy, please." The voice wailed, echoing like shattered glass. Was it truly Max, or merely another cruel trick of the echoing darkness? She rounded a bend illuminated by a brief flash, and there he was, her son, standing in a space bathed in a harsh, stark glow, the shadows pulling back just enough to reveal his small figure. "Max!" She cried, the name a prayer, a command. She raced forward, her heart weaving between hope and horror. But the moment she reached for him, the shadows convulsed, clutching her, dragging her backward with an unrelenting force. "Stay with us!" They roared in unison, terror and despair melding into a cacophony of anguish. Lisa felt their grip rasp against her skin, a cold that seeped into her bones. "You cannot save him. He belongs with us now." She struggled against their icy fingers, yearning for Max's warmth. "No. You're lying." The shadows constricted, thick and suffocating. "But he is one with our eternal sorrow," a voice silken and sweet cooed, almost enticing. "All you need to do is let go." Lisa felt her heart lurch. Could she truly lose him again? Emotions danced through her, a whirlpool of fear and fury churning away at her insides. "Mommy! Help me!" Max's sobs pierced through the clamoring voices, each cry wrenching her soul. In that moment, clarity crushed through the haze. The path before her glimmered with possibility. If she was to save him, she needed to confront the shadows, the pulsing pieces of her own torment. "Let him go!" she screamed, her voice raw, cutting through the torrent. "He is mine." The shadows recoiled slightly, and she instinctively took a step towards her son, desperation fueling her strength, yet the shadows reacted, swelling and swirling tighter around her, feeding on her fear, growing hungrier. "You want your son? You will have to pay a price," they hissed, and the air thickened with a dread that suffocated her resolve, but could she bargain with darkness? The more she thought about surrendering to the shadows, the more she felt the chilling truth: their whispers were the darkness of her own doubts. They were her doubts made flesh, her grief given form. "Get away from him!" she yelled. She was done hiding in fear, done being pulled into that abyss. She saw the path flicker, the light dimming like a dying star. Her moment of choice was here. The shadows surged at her, and Lisa charged forward, embracing the blinding light ahead. She pushed beyond the treacherous tendrils, feeling their cold bite against her, challenging every ounce of her will to stand firm. As she crossed the threshold of light, the laughter turned into a furious storm, alive and raging, trying to drag her back. With one last cry, she expelled all her fear. "Max! Hold on!" The light enveloped her just as the shadows lunged. Everything went dark, swallowed by a vast, empty void. And then silence. Was this death or something worse? "Mommy?" A faint, trembling voice echoed in the stillness, then fading into an anxious whisper. Had she truly found Max, or had the darkness tricked her into believing he was right there beside her? Lisa felt cold sweat run down her back, reality bending with every heartbeat. What awaited her in this chilling void? Was it too late to fight back? The darkness held its breath, and she knew the reckoning was yet to come. She had stepped into the unknown, and now, the shadows were waiting hungry for her choice. Light embraced her like a welcome homecoming, pouring into her senses with warmth and hope. For a moment, Lisa was cocooned in its safety, safe from the lurking shadows that had haunted her dreams. But as the brightness began to fade, reality crawled back into existence, wrapping itself around her like a wet blanket, heavy and cold. "Mommy?" The voice tugged at her heart like a gentle breeze stirring warm memories. It was Max. But where was he? The brightness that had comforted her flickered ominously, revealing what lay ahead. Max! She shouted, desperation tightening around her throat. She was standing in a room, the basement, twisted and wrong, just as it had been in the nightmare. The once familiar darkness crawled back, inching toward her with a grip that felt all too alive. Taking a deep breath, Lisa steadied herself, focusing on Max's voice. Max! She cried again, and a surge of adrenaline powered her forward. The shadows snapped and crackled around her, but she wouldn't be cowed again. Not now. Not ever. Then she saw him. Between the flickering shadows, a small figure appeared, small and cherished, standing at the far end of the room. He looked unbothered, innocent, as if he'd been waiting for her to come home. Mommy! Max called, and the room tilted. Elation flooded her heart, burning away the lingering fear. Max! She rushed toward him, everything else fading as she focused on his sweet face, trying to imprint it in her mind. But as she reached out, the shadows surged, swirling around him like venomous serpents. No! Stay back! She shouted, charging forward. The figures twisted in their malice, eyes like dark marbles glimmering with an insatiable hunger. You can't have him. Lisa fought against the tide of darkness, pushing her way through, grasping desperately for her son. Mommy, help me, Max whimpered, and it thickened her resolve. His voice pierced the ether, cutting through the shadows' taunts. They beckoned her, whispering sweet nothings filled with lies. Surrender, join us, he's better off without you, shut up. The words were sharp as daggers. She lunged, tearing through their non-reality, feeling the electric fear dance up her spine. Each grasping tendril felt like a weight, but she was not alone. The bond of a mother, pure and untarnished, prevailed. With her heart roaring like a drum, she broke free from their grasp. Max! Come to me! The shadows shrieked as their hold faltered. She felt the warmth of his small hand against hers, and with one final push, she clenched her fingers tightly around him. As she swept him into her arms, the shadows recoiled, screeching in fury. You can't escape! They screamed, but as her love enveloped them both, the darkness shattered, fragmented like glass under a hammer's blow. The light surged again, this time brighter, illuminating everything within its reach. Her precious son, her fierce love. Hold on to me, Max! She cried, the shadows howling in frustration as they retreated into the cracks of the room, their anguished wails echoing against the walls. Lisa felt the warmth expand around them, pushing out the last remnants of fear. In that moment, everything changed. The basement around them began to flicker, the very foundation rumbling as if the house itself was waking from a long slumber. The shadows screeched, fading away into the ether, leaving courage and light in their wake. Mommy, I was scared, Max whimpered, clinging tighter. I didn't want to play anymore. Lisa shushed him gently, brushing a lock of hair behind his ear. Neither did I, darling. But I'll always find you. I will always fight for you. As they stood intertwined, the room settled, the weight easing from her chest like a long-lost friend returning home. The house sighed, releasing a breath she never knew it had been holding. With a final shimmer, the darkness retreated, leaving a breathtaking view of dawn spilling through the windows. Sunshine broke through the heavy shadows, illuminating the once dreaded basement with golden light. They stepped forward together, emerging into a world of possibility, real and vibrant. The suburban landscape awaited them, unfurling like a ribbon of hope. Look, Mommy! It's a new day. Max laughed, his eyes shining, innocent and whole. Yes, my love, Lisa replied, squeezing his hand tightly. A new day, and a new start. We're free now. And as they walked together into the light, the past hung like a distant memory behind them. She felt lighter, as if the burdens of fear, dread, and darkness had been washed away. The whispers would fade, leaving only truth behind. Each step was a bright declaration she chose love. She would choose it every single time, now, before you leave this emotional journey, here's your chance to show your support. You need to subscribe now to our channel so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories that will grip your heart and soul. Smash that like button right now to help feed the algorithm that keeps us thriving. Flood the comments with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about Max and Lisa's future adventures. I'm eager to hear from you, and while you're at it, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to see this amazing conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Only true fans understand how important this is for keeping the magic alive. Let's keep the fire burning together.